Thanks for joining us. This is episode 1 of Sports Talk, name yet to be decided. Today,
John
and me, Kat, will be talking about yesterday's or Thursday night game with the Texans versus the Chiefs. Then we're going to move on to
going over the overs and under matchups for this upcoming Sunday and Monday. Deciding which teams are going to have the better advantage, whether you should go betting on the over, if they are going to meet the spread or not.
Yep, and then after that, we're going to give you our top 5 for both stardom and sit-em quarterbacks this week. Okay, so let's go to last night's game. We had the Texans versus the Chiefs. What are your takeaways from the game?
I was a bit disappointed with the game overall. I was expecting it to be a lot closer than it was. I was hoping the Houston Texans would keep up with the Chiefs. They did beat them last year. But overall, I was let down by the offense. And the Houston offense definitely is not the same without Hopkins.
Oh, for sure. My biggest takeaway from the Houston's offense was that line. I was texting it to you the whole time. Deshaun Watson could not sit in that pocket to have time to develop a play. Wasn't able to keep his eyes down the field. Pretty much running out. There's even that one play we saw where Deshaun Watson scrambles out and no one is trying to continue a block to help him out because he came running back. When he got out of the pocket, ran to the left, tried cutting back in to get some time. His linemen are just standing there. Biggest takeaway from week 1 is that Texans line.
The Chiefs, they look solid. We expected them to have the same kind of firepower. 98% of their roster was returning. So, it's going to be the same Super Bowl winning Chiefs. Tyreek Hill was firing on all cylinders. Travis Kelce. Their new running back, I'm still not 100% sold on. Just because it's still the first game of the season. He had a solid game, but it's hard to see if he can keep up the same production as...
So let me go ahead and add to that about Edward Hilaire. Yes, he did have a solid game. He had 138 yards with 1 touchdown, 25 carries. Mahomes threw for 24 passes. So they shared that load evenly. The thing I will say, though, is with that Chiefs offense... having Hardman, Watkins, Hill, and Travis Kelce, it makes you wonder how much do you stack the box to stop the run. It helps that running back out a lot. It's one of those things, it's hard for me to say he is a good, talented running back from knowing that decision of how well do any defense stack up the box, preparing for a run.
But there's also, he was held out 3 times the 1 yard line by the Texans defense, and the Texans do have a solid front 4, but just the fact that he couldn't just punch it in there, it's hard to say if he's going to be that guy, the same guy that his Damien Williams was for him.
Gotcha. Going to the other side of the ball, David Johnson did revive himself a bit. David Johnson, after 2015, just fell off the face of the earth, comes back, scores a touchdown, only runs for 77 yards, but again, that offensive line from what we saw, him at least being able to show up and seeing some relevance from him again was pretty good to see. I did like David Johnson coming back out. That was probably my favorite part about the other side of the Texans offense. From Deshaun Watson trying to make plays out of that pocket was great to see. Lets me know he is worth what they just paid him.
Of course. They just got to protect him.
They do. That's just going to be the biggest question going forward. And then making sure David Johnson does have holes to run in. I believe he can come back solid for them. Brandon Cooks had a kind of a slow night. He was questionable going into the week. He does get there. He gets 2 out of his 5 catches thrown to him for only 20 yards. It's hard to tell. He was questionable, but if the ball's thrown to you 5 times for being your number 1, he does have to catch it.
And I just don't think he's going to... I mean, Hopkins, he almost caught everything that was thrown his way. And just that drop-off, that he's not... You don't have that reliable number one receiver that you had before. So that's going to be Watson also trying to get used to that.
Speaking of hardly dropping a pass, Will Fuller did snag 8 of 10 of his passes for 112 yards. We know Will Fuller is a talented receiver. Him and Hopkins together as a duo was hard to guard. Will Fuller's biggest question mark is staying healthy. Same with Cooks. Hopefully Cooks comes back 100% and he does help out Will Fuller more. This was supposed to be an offense led by Cooks coming back, helping out, replacing DeAndre Hopkins. So hopefully Fuller and Cooks get this team back on track. Hopefully week 2 comes back better, even though they are going against the Ravens.
That is not whoever made their schedule.
So the football gods were not in their favor.
Yes. But one good thing I will say is Watt looked really good.
Watt did look solid. Another thing I do want to add before we do move on is Robinson, the receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs. He caught 3 for 6 passes for 20 yards, dropped 2 touchdown passes.
Yes.
If that guy can hold on to a ball and he changes that 3 to 6 being 5 to 6 with 2 touchdowns, I mean, I don't know if this guy's just getting a free field with Hill running.
With Hill and Kelsey also there, like, who's going to really pay attention to their third guy?
The first play he had, or the play where he potentially almost scores a touchdown, he's running next to Hill, and the over safety literally stays inside covering Hill while this guy just keeps streaking down the field. Like, it's almost unfair. Yeah. This Kansas City offense is still stacked, and they are playing like the top offense of the NFL.
Tyreek Hill's touchdown, he just outran Roby in a man coverage.
He walked it in the back of the end zone. Once he caught it, I mean, it was just a secure catch.
Roby did all he could. He almost got into his hand up there to swat it, but was there.
So that's our thoughts on the takeaways and main things on how we felt about Thursday night matchup against Kansas City and Houston. Hopefully Houston bounces back, even though they have a tough Ravens team to go against. If they can come back next week against the Ravens, we can start to see some upside and just say, hey, they played to the returning champs. The returning champs on the other side did not have that Super Bowl hangover. They came back and they played like a top football team coming back into week 1.
And you said undefeated since February.
Undefeated since February. Right now, they're the only team that's undefeated. All right, so next, we are going to go over the over and unders with the spreads on letting you guys know on who to start. All right, so first, we have Seattle against Atlanta.
That's a 2-point spread favoring Seattle.
Okay, so that's favoring Seattle. Okay. On my laptop right now, I do have Seattle taking the over. I like Seattle. DK Metcalf is coming in his second season with that offense. I like Pete Carroll. Love Russell Wilson. Tyler Lockett, still playmaker. On top of that, they do still have their running back, Chris Carson.
See, on my choice, I went with the Falcons.
Okay.
This is their game at home. I expect them to be, since they are the underdog this first game of the season, I don't expect Seattle to be playing at their full capacity just yet. They still don't even have Josh Gordon back. I don't trust all of their weapons on offense. Whereas Atlanta, they still got Calvin Ridley, they still got Julio Jones.
And they added...
Yes.
They added Todd Gurley.
Yes. So, and Todd Gurley, we definitely know, still is hungry. He still has a lot to prove, and he wants to show that he was worth the money that was spent on him originally, even though a lot of people short him off.
And you did mention they do got Matty Ice, right?
Of course.
It is only a 2-point favorite, and who does that 2 points going to again?
Seattle. They're favored by 2 points.
Gotcha. All right. Well, Yahoo does have the favorite being Seattle at the moment, so I do like that odds for me on who I think is winning. To me, Seattle, like I said, just seasoned team. Most of the offense is coming back for that second year. To me, it is Todd Gurley just joining the team. I feel like Calvin Ridley still hasn't found much of his identity in that offense. He did come out of the gate pretty solid and then just slow down from then. But it is hard to say with Julio Jones there that anyone can slow him down.
Exactly.
So it is a toss-up. I guess go ahead and go with what your gut says on that pick.
It could really go either way. Like I said, I'm taking Atlanta in that game. I think they'll at least cover that spread.
All right. Well, the next one will be a lot easier for us to discuss. We got the Buffalo Bills going against the New York Jets. I see this one possibly being a blowout, boring game after the half, with the Bills just taking over.
I definitely have to agree with you on that one. Josh Allen adding Stephon Diggs to that offense is definitely going to give them some offensive firepower. There is a good spread of 6.5, which is about a touchdown. I definitely see them beating the Jets by more than a touchdown.
With the Jets being said, Le'Veon Bell is having trouble in training camp being productive with them. They do have Frank Gore, who is nearly the end of his career, who's almost, from what I'm reading in different reports, Frank Gore is almost having a better training camp than Bell. That's almost hard to believe. Makes me wonder where...
It says Bell doesn't want to be there.
It does say that. He did get his money. Now he's ready to just settle down. Sam Darnold does lose Robbie Anderson, who was a top threat in the NFL as a receiver. So with him losing Robbie Anderson on top of that, I don't see how the Jets run down the field. They're just going to keep putting the ball in the Bills' hands. And with Josh Allen on the other side of the ball, I don't see how he doesn't score almost every possession.
And you forgot to mention, the Jets also did lose Adams.
They did lose Jamal Adams, big defensive threat. Like I said,
part of that defense.
The cover is 6.5, favoring the Jets. Expect the Bills to cover that.
Oh yeah.
Big money on that one. Big money on that bet.
All right. So next we got Detroit going, or Chicago playing in Detroit.
I have Detroit all the way in this one. The only reason mainly being is I do not trust Mitchell Trubisky. I'm not too sure if Nick Foles gets in that mix this game. I doubt they put him in this early. They might let Trubisky just run wild with this week 1 matchup and then probably evaluate what happens afterwards.
I definitely agree. As far as Detroit running away with this one, Mitch Trubisky's too up and down in the starting position, and I don't see them putting Nick Foles in at the half or anything like that unless Trubisky gets hurt.
Okay, and so our main reason on why we like the Lions to win the 3-point spread in this matchup is because they have Matthew Stafford coming back from a back injury. Even though he may not have Kenny Golladay, he'll still have Marvin Jones, Danny Amendola, and TJ Hawkinson, who was pretty solid on the way out. They do add Adrian Peterson, which does help for that veteran presence for the other younger running backs on that team with DeAndre Swift and Kerryon Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
The Chicago Bears do have a solid defense, but considering how many times we expect the Lions offense to be on the field because of the Chicago offense not being able to stay on the field, it's why we have the Lions winning.
I mean, the Bears do have some solid weapons in Allen Robinson. They do add Ted Ginn Jr.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy Graham is their tight end. He hasn't really shown much success anywhere other than New Orleans. You've got they added Cordell Patterson as well. So that's a good special teams player right there for kickoff returns, punt returns. So there's a possibility they could keep up with kind of a special teams play.
Gotcha. And going on to the next matchup, we have the Minnesota Vikings against the Green Bay Packers. And my vote, I went ahead and took Minnesota.
You went with Minnesota in this one?
I have Minnesota. It is a 2.5 spread. Going to Green Bay,
they're playing in Minnesota.
Yeah, Green Bay has the over, with Vikings having the under. The popular vote has it pretty much dead center in the middle on Yahoo. It's a 51% vote for the Packers and 49% for the Vikings. Go ahead and tell me why you like Green Bay right now in this matchup.
Aaron Rodgers, I definitely do feel, is a very... He's been kind of looked down on as of late because of the offensive struggles. But I definitely think he's coming in the season with something to prove. He was playing with some injury last season. You've still got Devontae Adams on offense. You've got Lazard, who's proven to be a good, solid number 2 option. And Aaron Jones is a very solid running back. That's going to take some pressure off of him to just be running the offense by himself. So I definitely see them coming in this game with something to prove. And with the new head coach, now that they actually have a solid coach, I think it's definitely going to be their game to take away. I think they beat that spread.
Gotcha. Which the spread is?
2.5.
2.5. It is very down the middle. The voting is down the middle. What I take from the Vikings to potentially pull this game off and to cover the spread is they have Kirk Cousins, they have Dalvin Cook, they have Adam Thielen. They do lose Stephon Diggs, which is a big part in helping Adam Thielen. I just believe that Adam Thielen is going to be that guy to help this team. They do still have Kyle Rudolph, veteran tight end, helps with the blocking, helps as a pass catcher. I just expect the Vikings to actually just do well this season in general. Not that I don't expect the Aaron Rodgers or the Green Bay Packers to do. This is just a tough firehouse team, only missing one member last year, that I believe they could still pull this off. Let's go on for our next one. Our next one is New England at Miami. Patriots all the way. It is a 6.5 spread. Go ahead and bet on New England to win this. Miami, they've been everywhere the last couple of years. Adam Gase is there. I'm not even sure how he still has a head coaching job. He's been out of the Jets, been with Miami, still 0 success so far. Most quality thing about Miami is they have Fitzmagic.
That's a very good point. They also, Devontae Parker is still a very good option. But as far as New England, it's going to be hard to see how the offense is going to produce with it being so much different than when they had Brady. Julian Edelman's probably going to be their number 1 option for the receiving, and N'Keal Harry still hasn't really shown him much on the field to get a good sense of if he can be that number 1 guy. You got James White, you got Sonny Michel. Those are very good, solid backs. The defense, they did have some people opt out for the season, but I do know defense is really Belichick's bread and butter.
Yeah.
So he's definitely gonna make this a good game. And I don't really see Miami taking the win here, especially since it's going to be out of New England and they don't like losing at home.
Oh, yeah. Knowing that it's going to be in Foxborough now, it's hard for me to see Miami coming in and getting this. Whether or not the offense does score, even though the defense side of the Patriots are losing some key matchup playmakers, I can still see Belichick getting turnovers and possibly scoring on defense still.
Oh, yes.
Or special teams. Our next matchup is going to be the Philadelphia Eagles against the Washington football team. We have a 6-point spread. I don't see any reason on why the Eagles should lose this. And the main part of that is just because the Washington football team does get Ron Rivera, great head coach. His first year, first weekend, I just don't expect him to get an early win against his Philadelphia Eagles team with Carson Wentz on there.
I definitely agree with you on that. Dwayne Haskins hasn't really shown enough to show that he is even up to the starting caliber position. You got the Philadelphia team strong. They had a lot of injuries last season, so their record didn't really reflect how good that team actually was.
Yeah, and even then, talking about Carson Wentz leading that team, even with injuries, Carson Wentz does find a way to stretch the field, does find a way to score and win games. And considering they play this team 2 times out of the year, every year being in the same division, I just see the Eagles being well prepared to play the Washington football team this week and covering that spread easily.
And Josh Norman's also going to be sitting out on that defense.
Gotcha. So, Deshaun Jackson being back, hopefully healthy, going into that game. Give it to Carson Wentz and the Eagles to cover that spread. Our next matchup, which I like as a tough decision, is the Las Vegas Raiders against the Carolina Panthers. Here I have the Las Vegas Raiders winning this game with a 3-point spread.
I also picked the Raiders for this game.
Okay, I didn't know if you did or not. Main reason I like the Raiders mainly has to do with Gruden being the head coach. I see him coming prepared, being a veteran coach going against the new head coach of the Carolina Panthers. On top of that, I think Derek Carr, now having Marcus Mariota behind his back, might help Derek Carr come out and be who he needs to be that potential MVP quarterback we used to see. He does have Henry Ruggs coming in as a receiver for him. There's a lot I like about the Raiders winning this game.
And for me, the main thing that I see about this game, you've got a young coach coming against a veteran head coach in John Gruden. It's definitely going to be a coaching battle where it's hard not to see the Raiders coming out on top and at least covering that spread. With Josh Jacobs as a running back, they've got Darren Waller as a solid tight end.
I don't know how I left out Darren Waller and Josh Jacobs. That was another thing I meant to say about Derek Carr having that help.
Definitely an underrated tight end. And they've added Jason Witten, which is a very good backup tight end.
Or you can even run, my bad, I didn't mean to cut you off. I meant to say that they can even run that double tight end package with Jason Witten as a blocking tight end. I mean, that just helps even more.
And the thing I was going to say is Jason Witten also adds a very good locker room presence that they probably didn't have that before.
Yeah, especially talking about the young talent of having Darren Waller and Josh Jacobs and Henry Ruggs and Derek Carr being right there in the middle. It just helps this locker room be more unified having Jason Witten on that offense or even in the huddle.
And Nelson Aguilar, he's also a very good option receiver. So him being back up to Ruggs and to Renfro, I definitely do see that offense opening up a lot more for Derek Carr.
Yep. And the only takeaway I take from Carolina is, for right now, I just don't know what their identity of their offense is, besides going through Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
They do got Teddy Bridgewater, but he does have DJ Moore. It's just hard for me to see where that offense goes, at least in this week 1 period.
Exactly.
And our next matchup is going to be the Indianapolis Colts against the Jacksonville Jaguars. The spread on this one is 8. That's a
huge gap.
It is a pretty big gap. Even though, with that being said, I am taking the Colts in this matchup. I like Phillip Rivers coming back in. He has T.Y. Hilton. Pretty much is going against a depleted Jacksonville Jaguars team. They lose several playmakers on both sides of the ball, where I don't see how Jacksonville pulls this off or even meets that spread.
When I first saw the 8-point spread, I thought that was too generous. So I also went with Indianapolis in this game. It's not even going to be fair. especially with the loss of Leonard Fournette for Jacksonville. That's going to limit that offense so much.
It really is. And then considering, like I said, the holes Jacksonville has, they lose Calais Campbell this offseason. They don't have the same two corners they had back then. I know Jalen Ramsey's been gone.
A.J. Boye, the other one.
There's just not enough on that team for me to believe Gardner Minshew pulls this win off. If he does, Minshew Mania is back.
Exactly.
Next we have, which I love this matchup. I was very split between this matchup. But we have the Baltimore Ravens going against the Cleveland Browns with a 7.5 spread. Go ahead and tell me what you think about this game.
The spread, I definitely think this game's going to be closer than what a lot of people are expecting. So I definitely do think the Cleveland Browns do have the potential, especially at least on paper, to keep up with the Ravens. But it's hard for me to not pick the Ravens in this particular matchup.
Yeah, you have former MVP. The only thing holding it back Lamar Jackson is that Madden curse.
Exactly.
Other than that, expect Lamar Jackson to still be a playmaker. I mean, the only thing I can think about is Myles Garrett being the only person to potentially stop or hold Lamar Jackson. But Myles Garrett can only be on one side of the ball.
Especially if you coming at him with that helmet, you better watch out.
He does like hitting quarterbacks. Yeah, the Browns, I mean, like I said, they add Austin Hooper. You got Nick Chubb, OBJ, Landry coming back on that offense. They look great on paper. They did last year as well. We'll see what happens after week 1. Even if they do get this week 1 win against the Ravens.
And they did get a new head coach this season.
That's right. Freddie Kitchens is gone. That may actually help. I'm not too sure.
And they have Austin Hooper now. David Njoku is still a very solid tight end. So that could help Nick Chubb get open.
There you go. But yeah, I mean, this is just favoring the proven winning team of last season with former MVP Lamar Jackson, or retaining MVP Lamar Jackson. You want to announce our next matchup?
Yes. For the next matchup, we have the Los Angeles Chargers playing at Cincinnati.
Going against Joe Burrow, the Tiger King.
For me, I'm definitely riding with the Chargers to take this one.
Mm-hmm.
That's a 3-point spread favoring the Chargers. With Cincinnati, I think I don't know enough about Joe Burrow to see if he can play on this stage against this level of competition. And we got AJ Green making his return from injury. You don't know if he's going to be fully 100%.
It's one thing if he says he is 100%, but him coming out and us seeing the AJ Green we seen and love, that Pro Bowler, all-team, first-team, NFL, AJ Green, if we can see that guy again, that's 100% to me. If he comes back 100% from where he's at now, we don't know where that's at.
Exactly. Tyler Boyd's a very good second option. And then John Ross he's got speed on him. So he can definitely open up the deep threat. But
just too many variables on that offense.
Exactly. I wouldn't go for the Bengals to beat that spread. They're going against Tyrod Taylor, veteran quarterback. They've got Keenan Allen. They've still got Hunter Henry and Austin Eckler. Very underrated offense, in my opinion.
Yeah, they've been underrated even with Phillip Rivers on that offense. Mike Williams, I believe he is doubtful, most likely going to be out. But even when he jumps back in that mix, that offense could be making a push. And
you also forget that the Chargers do have a very good set of corners. They've got Chris Harris. They've got Casey Hayward and Desmond King.
And we can't forget about Bosa.
Bosa's definitely going to be a very big...
He's going to put Joe Burrow to the test early, hopefully. I can't actually wait to see that.
Their front four are no joke. They've still got Melvin Ingram
on
the other side. and Linval Joseph, which is another very good defensive tackle.
Gotcha. So I think we can also say put a lot of money down, or not, on the Los Angeles Chargers going against Cincinnati Bengals with that 3-point spread. For sure think the Chargers cover that 3-point spread.
Yes.
Without a doubt. The next one. And I had this before today's news. I have New Orleans over Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It is a 3.5 spread. It's at New Orleans. Again, at New Orleans.
You see, I wasn't even thinking about making a change until after that news.
So the news is that Mike Evans is doubtful, most likely not going to be playing in this matchup. With that being said, the Saints to me just have a lot of firepower on offense. Alvin Kamara being there, Thomas being there, Drew Brees. You got the defense that has Lattimore, Cameron Jordan. There's another couple of names on that defense that just helps them out.
Marcus Williams,
one of the best cut blockers in the game, will help any team win a game.
Stephon Diggs can vouch for that.
So did you have you had Tampa Bay covering the spread until
I did have Tampa Bay coming out on top of this game before news broke out that Mike Evans might not be starting. Chris Godwin going against Lattimore is it's questionable to see how he's going to react to that. The only saving grace I would give them is if they get that run game working, and if they can work with both Gronk and
O.J. Howard,
and get them involved.
I mean, it's going to be a very close game. I love the matchup. For sure, going to watch this game. It's going to be exciting regardless. But like I said, biggest takeaway or biggest thing I'm going to give to the New Orleans Saints is that they're at New Orleans.
Exactly, and they also don't like losing at home.
No. All right, so next matchup we have is the 49ers against the Arizona Cardinals.
I think we both agree the 49ers are going to
win. Not the Cardinals. Yeah, for sure. 49ers, they just missed the Super Bowl. It's hard to say they just missed it. They missed it after the third quarter. The fourth quarter was gone with the Super Bowl. With that being said, I think more than sure the 49ers can cover a touchdown spread of 7 points against the Cardinals. It is hard. This is a hard guess on week 1 because we do not know how Kyle Murray is going to come out in his second year. He does add DeAndre Hopkins to a list of weapons with Christian Kirk and Larry Legend Fitzgerald. It's hard to see where that offense goes. They got Keon Drake.
I love his receiving core on paper. It's just seeing how it plays out.
For sure. And Kyle Murray, like I said, still needs to be proven, or he doesn't need to be proven. I think he did show he can do well in the NFL. The biggest question, even though he did meet the spread last year against the 49ers, is now that 49ers is a solidified defensive team that can get to the Super Bowl. So now they're more of an identified defense. I don't see how the Cardinals early on get past them.
I would have to agree with you on that.
All right, so next is my team, the Dallas Cowboys, going against the Los Angeles Rams. I have the Cowboys covering that 3-point spread. I hope you agree. If you don't agree, this will be a little bit of a debate.
As much as I hate to admit it, I do see them covering that spread against the Rams.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, with the loss of Gurley, it's definitely going to make the offense a bit more one-dimensional. So, and the Dallas does have a good secondary to keep them off the field.
Yeah, I mean, even though the Rams still do have Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, to me, with having Amari Cooper, Gallup, and now adding CeeDee Lamb, hard to tell what he's going to do. Exactly. But you can't not line up over CeeDee Lamb trying to think or not being prepared of what he's going to do. after what he did in college, we know he's at least a playmaker. We don't know if he's an NFL type playmaker yet, but it's hard for a defensive coordinator not to give him the respect coming into week 1.
I definitely agree with you there. The only thing with the Rams is they do have a pretty good secondary as well, but it's not going to do much with Ezekiel Elliott. He's going to run it.
There we go. I was about to say we can't forget Zeke. We cannot forget Zeke in that lineup.
They're going to control the clock, and they're definitely going to at least cover that spread.
They almost make one of those option or arguable moments where the Cowboys don't even have to be in under center and worry about the play action. The Cowboys can even be in shotgun and do a handoff instead, but that can push the corners back. You give Zeke all that more room to run.
That's true.
All right, so going on to our next one, we have Pittsburgh against the Giants. It is a 6-point spread. And what do you think about it?
Oh, Giants all the way. No.
Be a Giant upset.
This is definitely Pittsburgh's game to lose.
For sure.
They're 6-point favorites. You've got Big Ben back. You've added weapons to their offense. I just don't see them losing this game, and I definitely see them beating them by more than 6 points.
Oh, for sure. My biggest thing, keep in mind, I think the Giants could be going somewhere. They could be going somewhere with talent like Saquon Barkley, Evan Ingram, Danny Dimes, Daniel Jones. The other questionable thing is they do get the Cowboys' former head coach, Jason Garrett. They got Freddie Kitchens and Joe Judge. It's kind of hard to tell what that team might do. If they end up developing to be something, they may potentially be dangerous later on. But the Steelers, arguably one of the top 3 defensives in the league, especially coming off of last year. Oh, yes. I don't see any way that the Giants get moving against that defense, which is why I see Pittsburgh covering that 6-point spread easily.
I definitely agree with you there. And they added Eric Ebron to that roster too for the Steelers, didn't they?
Oh, they added Eric Ebron. So yes, you got James Conner and Big Ben coming off of injuries, getting back into this season, adding Eric Ebron, Mike Tomlin, probably one of the top 5 coaches in the NFL, ready to come back. He has his starting quarterback coming back in for this matchup. Yeah, there's a lot of good things to say about Pittsburgh. I do like them in this matchup. Might be closer after week 2 to see how we feel about them against different teams. But for sure, week 1, take them over the Giants. The next one, I almost cannot believe the spread on this one. Unless the spread was made
they expect it to be a close game?
Unless it was made before the loss of Von Miller. But even with Von Miller going against the Tennessee Titans, I do not see how this 2.5 spread was made.
I definitely agree. They must have some really favorable opinions of Drew Lock, but I don't see them holding anything with this against this Tennessee team.
I will admit, I do not know much about Drew Lock. Well, I don't know about you.
I knew a little bit of him in college, but it's still, he's going against Mike Vrabel, a very defensive-minded coach. Very much like Bill Belichick, he makes it very hard for rookie quarterbacks.
That's the first thing I was about to say. Is we don't know a lot about Drew Lock, but we do know a lot about Vrabel. We know he is very defensive-minded. He's going to use Derrick Henry to the best of his ability to do that Patriots offense, which he outcoached Belichick in, and just chewing the clock and just getting the time of possession in the Titans' favorite. I don't see how Denver gets this 2.5 spread. Also, what's the Denver's receiver's name? Their number 1. He just came off of an injury during training practice with his shoulders. I'm not even sure how he's going to come back Sunday.
Oh, Courtland Sutton. You're right.
Courtland Sutton.
Sutton.
There you go. Either way, he's coming off of injury this week. So there's a lot of questions. Again, 2.5 spread. I got the Tennessee Titans winning it.
I'm going King Henry all the way in this one.
King Henry. Like I said, Vrabel and Henry.
With Von Miller gone, I mean...
I still don't even see how this spread came about, even if Von Miller played this game.
Exactly.
So, for sure, that's the end of the spread countdown for every team. Either that might end up being my favorite one to bet on is Tennessee Titans at Denver. Who was another one? Who was your other favorite out of this?
Out of all of these?
Out of all of these, I think my next favorite, like I said, love the Titans against the Broncos. My next favorite is going to be the Buffalo Bills against the Jets. 6.5.
Yeah, that was mine.
It is a little more favorable compared to that 2.5. But again, I think this game is going to be over after the half.
I definitely agree with you there.
So we can agree that's our top two for sure bet on spread lines.
Yes.
All right.
So the next thing we're going to go over is the startums and situms for quarterbacks for this week. Let me just go ahead and list them, and then we're going to give reasons why.
Okay.
So for start, if you're playing fantasy, we're going to go with the starting quarterbacks. And of course, we're not going to mention the obvious names.
Yes, we're not going to say start Fitzpatrick against the New England Patriots. That is not going to be one we would say start or sit him against. If you're starting Fitzpatrick against the Patriots defense...
No, but I mean against obvious names like Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, things like that.
There you go.
We're not going to be naming those. We're going to be more on the cusp, whether or not you're on the fence of sitting or starting these. So we have Phillip Rivers coming in number 1 for our start.
I would like to say throughout this whole show, we are only going to be partially right about 5% of the time. So do not take all of this to heart. Hey, but if we're right, show up for the next show and say, hey, these guys were right. They got the 95%.
So we got Phillip Rivers, we have Aaron Rodgers, we have Josh Allen, Tyrod Taylor, and Ben Roethlisberger for our start for this week.
We can wait on the sit-em. For the sit-em, we have one that may surprise y'all.
So the ones we have sitting this week, we have Jared Goff, Drew Lock, Teddy Bridgewater, Gardner Minshew, and
Tom Brady.
So let's go over the reasons why we should start some of these quarterbacks. So Phillip Rivers, he's going against a terrible defense.
In the Jacksonville Jaguars.
No Calais Campbell. And that team is definitely going to be one-dimensional.
They're hurting without Leonard Fournette being on that offense, for sure.
Exactly. So we definitely expect Phillip Rivers to have a very good Week 1 game. For Aaron Rodgers, this is his redemption season. He's no longer has that golden boy status that was given to Mahomes.
Mahomes now became the face of the NFL. When we look at before Mahomes took over, and everyone looked in the NFL and said, "Who's the most talented quarterback in this league?" It used to be without a doubt Aaron Rodgers. It is arguable on who was. But if you look at pure accuracy, arm strength, do-it-all quarterback, Aaron Rodgers was that guy until Mahomes took over. Almost kind of forgot about him. Even Green Bay is almost ready to move on with him. They did draft a quarterback in the first round.
That's going to be the biggest motivation for him to want to prove something this year.
So I'm still here. I ain't ready to go.
The biggest flex he can do is go off this season and then demand for a trade.
Demand for a trade. Yeah. So yeah, I like Aaron Rodgers. For sure start him. He is going against the Minnesota Vikings. That may be the only toughest thing, but we're not going to act like Aaron Rodgers hasn't been on big stages before and came up big.
Exactly. For Josh Allen, added weapon of Stephon Diggs.
Mm-hmm.
This is their first week, though, so we definitely want to see how that offensive does progress with that new added weapon. If there's too many mouths to feed, if it gets to be like that. Another thing is without their run game.
With Singletary being there, we're not too sure how balanced that offense is going to be yet. We're not sure if it's going to be one-sided and straight passing, or they're actually going to utilize the run game to help the passing game.
Exactly. If they get their run game shut out and snuffed early and they become one-dimensional where they have to rely on passing, it's definitely going to make it harder on Josh Allen, but he's also going to get the chance to throw the ball more and get some of those deep passes and rack up yards.
But for sure, week 1, no Jamal Adams. Like I said, Jets should be the team for him to come back or start the season off right.
Oh, yes. Bills Mafia.
Bills Mafia.
And another former Bill, Tyrod Taylor.
Okay.
Anthony Lynn.
Anthony Lynn, like Anthony Lynn, they're going against the Cincinnati Bengals.
This is a veteran quarterback going against a rookie quarterback. Tyrod Taylor's a very underrated journeyman quarterback. Huge chip on his shoulder. He's got a lot to prove, and he's playing for his job against a promising young rookie.
Yeah, no, Justin Herbert can be that guy. It's one of those things. If Tyrod Taylor can at least show up and be this guy for this whole season or even one more season, it can even be an Alex Smith and Mahomes kind of moment. Not saying Justin Herbert's going to be Mahomes, but it's just that thing that Tyrod Taylor is a solid quarterback, just like Alex Smith was. You put him in that offensive system with Anthony Lynn going against this pretty much new team. We have a second-year head coach, new quarterback. I see Tyrod Taylor just making a statement this first game early on in week 1.
And you could honestly say this is probably the better receiving core he's had in a while.
Oh, yeah. He will have Keenan Allen, very underrated receiver. I do like Keenan Allen a lot going into this. If he did have Mike Williams, would have been even more dangerous. Austin Eckler, probably underrated as a catching back. Probably, if we're talking about just as a catching running back, Austin Eckler probably easily top 5 in my opinion. That might be a bit bold.
That is.
It is a bit bold, but like I said, as a catching back, solid catching back.
Okay, and the next one we have on this list here is Ben Roethlisberger.
Okay. Did kind of talk about this in the spread. Big Ben is coming back after Tommy John surgery. Been a while since he's thrown a football. He's coming back. They
added Eric Ebron to this roster.
They did
gives him a very good upgrade to Vance McDonald. Vance McDonald, I mean, he was a good tight end, but he's not on par with Eric Ebron.
The other thing I meant to mention was that Big Ben did train this offseason, where it's been rumored he hasn't worked out in the offseason, preparing for training camp and week 1.
He's got some motivation. He saw Mason Rudolph playing in his position last season, and people kind of almost forgot about him.
Yeah. On top of that, we can almost agree Juju Smith-Schuster has almost fallen off from that week 18 or year 8, 2018 season.
Oh yeah.
From that 28 season, Juju has not been the same. Hopefully he comes back. Him and Big Ben get on the same page, and that offense just runs over this team.
I definitely am seeing that happening, though. For our sit-ems for this, we have Jared Goff. With the loss of Todd Gurley, he no longer has Brandon Cooks, and I would say it's still too early to tell if Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods are that guy to kind of take the reins of that number 1 receiver position.
Oh, for sure. So with Todd Gurley and, like you said, Brandon Cooks being out, it almost wonders who's going to be the identity of that offense and who's going to be the main playmaker of that offense.
I love Cooper Kupp, but we don't know if he was a product of Cooks being there or not.
Yeah, like I said, if you have that 3-headed receiving core, it's hard on who to guard across the field. And then it's hard for the safeties on where to cover when you had a solid running back like Todd Gurley right there in the backfield. Again, Jared Goff is going against the Cowboys. We do like the Cowboys going in this week 1 matchup.
Cowboys defense is solid too.
DeMarcus Lawrence, one of the highest paid defensive players. Hopefully he comes back and plays like he's getting paid and shows up week 1. I imagine he's hungry. He wasn't satisfied last year. He's going to come back strong. Hopefully put pressure on Goff. and just ruin that passing game, which is why I do not feel comfortable starting Goff, which is why we have him in the sit-em.
We have Drew Lock here going against the Titans. As we said earlier, Mike Vrabel is a very defensive-minded head coach. With Von Miller out of the lineup, that's going to give Derrick Henry the chance to chew up more clock. And that Titans defense is no joke. They've got some very good weapons on defense. They've got Malcolm Butler. They've got Bayard still on defense.
And again, like we just mentioned, Denver Broncos did lose their receiver. Their number one receiver.
Sutton.
They lose him. They lose Von Miller. It's going to be very hard for Drew Lock to come out this Week 1 matchup playing well and getting a win.
And that's a lot to put on a young quarterback, too.
It is a lot.
Teddy Bridgewater. We have this one, a new head coach versus a veteran head coach. They're probably going to be very run heavy, and they could also possibly limit Teddy Bridgewater to some checkdowns, kind of like that Kyle Allen offense that we saw last season. Kyle Allen wasn't really spectacular. He was more of a game manager, which we could probably expect Teddy Bridgewater to be in this first
For
game.
sure. And one of the other things, even going with this sit-em list, it's not that we don't like any of these quarterbacks. Again, it's just going off their Week 1 matchup. I think Teddy Bridgewater is a solid quarterback, but if we're going to put him up in this Week 1 matchup, it's kind of just hard to tell. It's a new team to him on how this offense is going to run, especially when you have someone like Christian McCaffrey being that workload bell cow for them.
We saw Teddy Bridgewater light it up for the Saints, but he doesn't have those same receiving options.
He does not have Michael Thomas out there.
Exactly.
He does have DJ Moore, but you can't compare apples to apples with those two. Again, it's just him going against that John Gruden defense. Again, like I said, not that we don't like Teddy Bridgewater, just a tough Week 1 matchup for him going in without that offense having an identity yet. Again, we're probably only going to be 5% right about this. This may be one we blow out way of proportion. Teddy Bridgewater may show up. Him and Christian McCaffrey may light up the scoreboard. We could be wrong.
So the next one on our list here is Gardner Minshew. With the loss of Leonard Fournette, that's definitely going to limit this offense. They were very run-heavy previously. They do have some good offensive weapons, but with them becoming one-dimensional, not able to rely on that run game, that could definitely put some wear and tear on them.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Again, if Gardner Minshew finds a way to win this game, Minshew Mania is for sure back going against the Indianapolis Colts. I just don't see it. Again, I favor the Colts offense in this. I favor their defense, which is it's hard to tell. They don't have much playmakers on that defensive side of the ball, but as a unit, that defense is probably for sure top 10 in the NFL.
Underrated.
Yes. So again, it's just hard to see Gardner Minshew getting this without that run game of Leonard Fournette shadowing what that other side of the ball is going to do when they guard them.
Because they do have Xavier Rhodes.
Yes, there you go. Xavier Rhodes is on the Colts, so that covers DJ Chark right there.
Yes, and you got DeForest Buckner on as a defensive tackle. Their linebackers are very solid. Darius Leonard.
Ooh,
that's it.
Again, Minshew Mania could be alive, could be wrong. But our gut's going to say sit Gardner Minshew Week 1 for sure. Try and start someone else if you can. And that's who you have. That's who you have.
And the last one we have is Tom Brady.
Okay. So this one, before Mike Evans was considered doubtful and unlikely to play, I would have said go ahead and start Tom Brady. Go ahead and start him. But Mike Evans most likely will not be in this game. With Mike Evans not being there, I feel like Bruce Arians and Tom Brady's offense is going to find the way to win. And that's going to be with more of a check-down passing game. Don't expect Tom Brady to spread the field, make big plays down the field with Gronk and
OJ Howard. I definitely do expect, because they're going to have those two big tight ends, that they may try to open up some lanes for Leonard Fournette, especially get his legs going. Brady is probably going to limit it to short passes if his receivers can break free. Now, if you've got Gronkowski going against Marcus Williams, I mean, expect him to break a tackle.
Expect Marcus Williams to set Gronk up for big yards.
Because we know he definitely can't get those leg blocks. And, that's the only way to stop Gronkowski.
And it's just hard because if we knew that this is Gronk coming off of a continuous season, we know what to expect from Gronk. But since Gronk did take some time off, I just don't know. Again, it goes to that AJ Green thing. I don't know what Gronk we're going to get back.
Exactly. And one of the biggest things about this matchup is you're going to have Godwin going against Lattimore. So I definitely don't see Godwin winning a lot of those one-on-one balls.
I'll go ahead and repeat it from the spread option. At New Orleans, at the Saints Dome, I just don't see how... it's hard for me to see Brady in that offense. That, again, Brady's new to this offense. They do bring in Gronk. They do bring in Leonard Fournette. It's hard for me to see them get comfortable in this Week 1 matchup. Now, when they play the Saints again later on down the road, hopefully they have Mike Evans. For sure, start Brady.
I'm predicting they're probably going to go 1-1 versus the Saints.
Oh, for sure. I can see that. I don't see either team winning both games in their division matchups.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
All right, so there you have it. That's our Stardom and Situm Week 1 fantasy football quarterbacks. Thank you for joining us. If you did like this, please subscribe, like the video, or don't come back. Don't come back if everything was wrong, or come back if you want to do the opposite. Well, no, or come back, talk crap, or like I said, hey, these guys said Buccaneers are going to lose to the Saints. Okay, let's go for the Buccaneers because these guys are always wrong.
And if you lost money on any of our recommendations, don't even look for us.
And if you won money, Cash App down below. Send your boy a tip. Again, the name of this channel is yet to be decided. It might be decided once it's uploaded. You can see it right there down below. Be a friend. Tell a friend if you liked it. See y'all later.